Hello and welcome back to the Wizards Arena, my fellow Planeswalkers. Today we're doing Strixhaven Day 1. I did do it the day before, but we had a minor technical issue, so I had to reinstall audio drivers, and now we are in here. First off, we are covering new mechanics. Learn. You may reveal a lesson card you own from outside the game. In this case, it's the sideboard. Put it into your hand or discard a card to draw a card. So if you don't have a lesson you want to learn, you can just cycle through your deck. So for 2 and a blue, you draw a card and then you learn the lesson. Okay, until we know more of what the lessons and other learns are, seems alright, and it's a common. Next up, we have the professor. Checking in with her students for a colorless and a white. 2/1. She enters the battlefield and we get to learn. Again, same mechanic. Moving on. Next up, we have first day of class. Colorless and a red. Instant whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control this turn. Put a +1/+1 counter on it and it gains haste. Kind of wish this was an enchantment. I would be a little more excited, but it's a good draft card. Again, you're learning. But what are we learning? Don't know yet. Aha! Here's the lessons. First lesson we get to have is 5 for sorcery. All the ones we've seen so far are sorceries. Introduction to Annihilation. 5, colorless. Exile non-land permanent. The controller of it draws a card. Okay. That's pretty cool. Introduction to Prophecy. 3, describe 2 and draw. Well, this is okay with Pop Quiz, because then you're essentially drawing 2 and scrying 2 for a 6 mana. Okay. Expanded Anatomy. 3, put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature against Vigilance until end of turn. Kind of wish it was 1 +1/+1 counter and a Vigilance counter, but it's a common. It's fine. Next up, we have our first hybrid pest summoning. 2 black or 2 green, and the colors create 2 1/1 black and green pest creatures. When this creature dies, gain a life. Sure. Confronting the past. Okay. This is our first rare lesson. X and a black. Choose 1. Return target Planeswalker card from the graveyard with mana value X or less to the battlefield. Mana value is now replacing converted mana cost, so we now get to say, instead of CMC, we get to say MV. Yay. Or we can remove twice X loyalty counters from target Planeswalker an opponent controls. Wonder if, like, in Theros, there's going to be a cycle of these for each color. They have 2 modes. This is a nice flavor card. Why Gideon of all people? Why did you save me? So the only thing I fear about the lessons is we're gonna, like, we've had people like Con and stuff before to access the sideboard. I feel like we're starting to get on the slippery slope where Wizards will just say, like, oh, you can just pay 3 and take any card from your sideboard and just put it in your hand, or 4. I'm just nervous. So, moving on. Next up, we have the keyword Magecraft. Okay, So 2 and 2 blue for 2/2 with Magecraft. Magecraft's whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, you do a thing. The Archmage says draw a card. That's pretty cool. So if I cast a card and copy it, I get to draw 2. That's pretty cool. There was one that cost 4 and was a 1/1, and he only did for the first one. So yeah, he's a step up. Power creep on its way. Next up, we got the Dragon's Guard Elite. This is the box topper. Buy box promo, whatever you want to call it. For colors in the green, it's a 2/2 human druid. Whenever you cast a copy of an instant or sorcery, put a +1/+1 counter on her. She's a 2/2, so that means like you just do 1 or 2 spells and she's already getting really big. Then she has the new green mechanic that's getting used quite a bit. 4 and 2 green to double the number of +1/+1 counters on her for 6 mana. So pretty good. You know, not the greatest usage of Magecraft. I feel like both her, the one before, are just like 6s. Nothing exciting here to see. And our next card is an eager first-year student. Colorless and a white Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy instant or sorcery, it gets +1/+0 to end of turn. Okay, like, it's fine. Moving on to our next batch of cards, which is going to be the specific cards from that day that weren't guild cards. We got all 4 Planeswalkers. Oh, baby. Rowan, Scholar of Sparks. 2 in a red, dual-sided with her brother. Instants and sorceries cost 1 less. +1-er. Deals 1 damage to each opponent. If you drew 3 cards or more this turn, do 3. -4, you get an emblem. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you may pay 2 if you do copy it. Okay. We'll have to see what her brother does. Here's her brother, Will, checking in. 4 in the blue. Instants and sorceries are 1 less. +1 up to 1 target creature has base power and toughness of an 0/2 until end of your next turn. Until your next turn, not the end of. -3 to draw 2. -7 exile up to 5 target permanents. For each permanent exiled this way, its controller creates a 4/4 blue and red elemental. I can make myself an army to go smash you. I can make all your lands into creatures and then like then sweep the board with Stormwrath. So there are options here. I think overall, since we had Water Spark, they're backing off the power level of the walkers. His sister and him are like a 6. Next up, we got Professor Onyx. Oh baby. 4 and 2 black for 5 loyalty. Legendary Planeswalker Liliana. Oh boy. She's hiding. Can't see me. Magecraft, when you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. That's kind of neat. +1, you lose a life. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Put 1 in your hand and the rest into the yard. For reanimation strategies, that's pretty cool. -3, each opponent sacks a creature with the greatest power. -8, Each opponent may discard a card. If they don't, they lose 3 life. Repeat this process 6 more times. So that's a total of 7. If they don't have any cards in hand, they just lose 21 life straight up, which is pretty ridiculous. Now, we get to go on to the Schools of Magic Silver Quills first. That's the white-black one. White and a black for the Apprentice. That's a 2/2 human warlock. Magecraft. I'm not going to keep saying it, but the Magecraft payoff is target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So you can give a specific creature the bonus. And if you put it on a guy that has First Strike or Death Touch, it can be pretty cool. Next up, we have a command. The command cycle is back. We get the enemy colors. Okay. 4 mana is kind of steep, as we learned from the last command, unless they're doing something crazy like Cryptic Command did. 2, a white and a black. Choose 2, as always. Target creature gets +3/+3 and gains flying until end of turn. Okay. Return target creature with MV 2 or less from graveyard to battlefield. Target player draws a card and you lose a life. And then target opponent sacrifices a creature. Works pretty good with Professor Onyx. It seems a little overcosted, or if it was an instant it would be better, but this one I'm just not super impressed with. This one's like a 4. It's like, okay. Like, pretty much all the walkers are pretty much duds too. Shahili, Dean of Radiance. So we get a Dean for each color. This guy is a colorless and a white for a flying vigilance 1/1. Put a +1/+1 counter on each creature that enters the battlefield by tapping this guy. Okay. What's his backside do? Because the front side does not really impress me. 2 and 2 black. Tap. Put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature. Then he deals 2 damage to that creature. Whenever a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, draw a card. It's okay. I'm not really impressed. He's like a 4, the two of them. Like, they kind of make a combo, but not really. They're dual face, so one side's more useful in certain scenarios, but Silver Quill, alternative art. And then we get the regular art. What's the founder do? 3, a white and a black for a flying double strike 2/5 Elder Dragon. Okay. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may choose 2. Each mode must target a different player. Okay. There's 3 modes. Target player creates a 2/1 white and black Inkling creature with flying. Target player draws a card and loses a life. Or target player puts a +1/+1 counter on each creature they control. So because it's may choose to, you just can skip doing it, and you don't have to do it every turn. And making a 2/1 flyer ain't too bad. Buffing your whole board is not too bad either. Or you could buff your whole board and let them draw a card, or make a blocker. Or you could buff their board if they got no board. So I like him. He's pretty good. Out of what we've seen so far, I think he's probably like the best thing. He's like a 7. Because so far these cards have been very unexciting. Next up, we got land. Is it a good land? No, it's a off-color Shadows of Innistrad lands. So it comes into play, you can reveal plains or swamp to your opponent, and it comes into play untapped. Yay. It's a 3. We got better lands right now. I'm not really impressed with these lands. They're not going to really change standard. Like, whatever, guys. And finally, the white-black commander. A bird warlock. Colors a white and a black for a 1/3 flyer. Whenever a player attacks one or more opponents, if that opponent has more life than another one of your opponents, that attacking player draws a card and puts 2 +1/+1 counters on a creature I control. I'm not too impressed here either. It's okay. I'll give it like a 4. So that's all we got for Sliver Quill. Next up, Prismario. First off, you get their apprentice. It's uncommon. Blue and a red for a 2/2. He can't be blocked this turn if the spell I cast had a mana value of 5 or greater. And then you put a +1/+1 counter on him. I mean, I can see it being good in limited. I don't really think it'll make much splashes in standard. I don't only really value or rate uncommons that are really good. The Professor's in. Okay, Dean, what you got for us? 2 and a blue for 2/2. You may exile an instant or sorcery card from your hand. Put 3 home counters on it. It gains at the beginning of your upkeep. If this card is exiled, remove a home counter. When the last home counter is removed, you may cast it for 4 less. So for 4 colors less. Okay. The red side is Narceria. What do you do, bud? 3 and 2 red for 4/4. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of each opponent's library until end of turn. You may cast spells from among those cards and spend mana as if it was any color. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, put a +1/+1 counter on him. So he works really good if his flip side's out combined with him. So that's pretty cool. This is one of the better cards we've seen so far. I'm going to give it like a 6. Next up, the blue-red command. Colorless blue and a red instant. Okay, so a 1 cheaper than white-black and with instant speed. This don't sound too bad. Choose 2. Shock a thing. Target player draws 2, then ditch 2. Make a treasure or blow up an artifact. pretty useful. Lots of different bases to cover. I'll give it a 6. Next up, we have Storm Kiln Artisan. More dwarfs for us. Yeah. Okay, so he gets +1/+0 for each artifact. He's 3 in a red. And he's a 2/2 with Magecraft of Curry and a treasure token. So he could potentially get really big. I think he's the first uncommon we've seen that's been super cool. We'll give him a 5. Next up, we have a rare Merfolk Wizard. For 2 in a blue, you get a 2/2. With now the keyword in of Ward. Whenever this creature becomes the target of a spell or an ability an opponent controls, they have to pay 2 more or it gets countered. Okay. When he enters the battlefield, exile an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. Put a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to half that card's mana value rounded up. Okay. That sounds pretty like, if you exile it's gonna cost 6, it's a 5/5 with no evasion. Like, I guess. What's its other side do? Colorless and a red, ditch a card, then draw a card. Whenever you discard an instant or sorcery card this way, it deals damage equal to the MV to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. So you can use the sorcery side to make it so the wizard side is more powerful when it comes into play, but it just seems like to me that that's not that good of a deal. I feel like this is like a 4. It's okay. Next up, what do we got? Let's knock our socks off. It's the land. I'd give it a 3. Moving on. Red, blue, commander. 2, a blue and a red, Magecraft. So whenever we cast or copy, we scry 1. If the spell's mana value is 5 or greater, make a 4/4. If the mana value is 10 or greater, does 10 damage to an opponent chosen at random. I'm a big fan of this random ability. I mean, at least we get to scry, but I am not impressed. This guy's like a 3. So that is all for this wonderful school of Prismario. With a bloom. So far we don't have the apprentice. We got Dean of Root. 2 and 2 green. Whenever you gain life, you may pay a color. So if you do, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. They gain trample at the end of turn. Well, maybe if you do some kind of like Abzan tricks, this would be pretty cool. Okay, this sounds really good. And the flip side, the Dean of Vane. 1 black, 1/1 menace lifelink. Oh, if a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile instead. If you do, pay 2. You get a pest token that if it dies, you gain a life. So if you have both the Deans out at the same time on this dual-sided card, it works really good combo-wise. This is one of the better cards we've seen today. I'm going to give it a 6, even though it is one of the better cards we've seen today. Next up, we got the command. Hey, a black-green command for 2, and it's a sorcery. Already making more waves than the other cards. Mill 3, and then you can return a land card from your graveyard to your hand. Okay, Horror. Destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. That's better in some eternal formats. Reminds me of Abrupt Decay. Target creature gets -3/-1 till end of turn. Okay. Or target opponent loses 2 and you gain 2 life. So you can also life drain them for a little bit. Okay. This seems pretty good. It's better than a lot of the stuff we've been seeing today. I'd give it a 6. And then next up, what do we got? The black-green land that you reveal swamp or forest to. Well, this one also gets a 3. Next. Colorless, a black and a green for 3/3 Dryad Druid. 1. Tap. Choose another target creature. Put a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the amount of life you gained this turn, or the amount of life you lost this turn. Whichever is greater. Activate this only as a sorcery. Pretty good. I approve. It's a different spin on black-green. So right there it jumps all the way up to 7. It's different ways to build black-green commander decks. Next up is a new school. We're going to Lorehold. Oh baby. The Lorehold Apprentice. Red and white for a Magecrafter that says, until end of turn, spirit creatures you control gain tap. This creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. So that works really good with the red, white, blue Jeskai commander that makes spirit tokens. Unfortunately, all you have to do is cast 1 instant or sorcery to get the thing to trigger. It doesn't stack to increase the damage, which is smart on their parts. But it does hit all the opponents, so that's pretty cool. I really like this uncommon. I'd give this uncommon like a 7. It's one of the good uncommons. Next. The Dean of Chaos. Oh baby. How chaotic are you? Colorless red for 2/2. Tap. Discard a card, draw a card. Sounds red to me. 4 and a red, reveal the cards on the top of your library until you reveal a non-legendary, non-land card with MV of 3 or less. You may cast the card without paying its mana cost. Put all revealed cards not cast this way on the bottom of your library in a random order. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm down with that. Dean of Order. 2 and a white for 1/3. Other tapped creatures you control get +1/+0. Other untapped creatures you control get +0/+1. Whenever you attack, she doesn't have to attack, just when you attack. Untapped each creature you control, then tap any number of creatures you control. So you can control how they're buffed for the combat and until your next turn. So that's really cool. This is probably one of the best cards we've seen all day. This gets a 7. Next up. Oh boy, the red-white command. Hoping for something cool here. 3, a red, a white, and an instant. Make a 3/2 red and white spirit token. Doesn't even fly. Okay. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible. Okay, so like Boros Charm. They're indestructible and have haste to end of turn. Lightning Helix a thing. Sack a permanent, draw 2. Initially reading this, I thought it was pretty bad. It's a lot of mana, but it's instant. And you're given white, red, a way to draw cards late game with very little downside. It's not broken. I mean, you do get 2 options here. So like at worst, you're like Lightning Helix and any target, and then you're sacking the thing to draw 2 cards, like a land or a clue token or something, like a treasure. So I feel like this is a 5. Next up, what do we got? Kind of wish we got the Battle for Zendikar double check lands, but this is a 3. Moving on. Red White Commander. Okay, time to shine. Red White. 2, a red and a white for 4/4 Vigilance. 1, sack an artifact. Target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Okay, so kind of like the ATOG ability. You can just do it like a bunch of times, even if he's tapped. X and tap, exile an artifact card with mana value X from your graveyard. Create 2 tokens that are copies of the exiled card. Activate only as a sorcery. That's pretty cool. So I can spend some mana, get a thing back, duplicate it, and then if people want to swing into me and spend 2 mana and give one of my blockers +4/+0, sounds okay to me. And that's all for Lorehold. Next up, we got our final guild. Faction, whatever. Quandadrix. Okay, so blue-green, are they smart or do they make overpowered junk? Whenever you cast a copy an instant or sorcery, look at top 3 cards of your library, reveal a land card, and put the rest on the bottom of your deck. Okay, so you do a lot of blue-green spell slinging, and you get to put lands into your hand from the top of your deck. That sounds good. This is also a really good apprentice. I'd give him a 7. Next up, we have the Dean of Substance. 2 and a green. Exile top card of your deck. If it's a land card, put it in your hand. Otherwise, put a study counter on it. Okay. Gotta figure out how to study. 4 and a green. Create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token. Put a +1/+1 counter on it for each different MV among non-land cards you own in exile with study counters on them. Okay, that's kind of weird. Let's see her backside. We got the Dean of Theory for 2 and 2 blue. This bird wizard showing up as a 3/3 to fly. You spend an X and 2 blue, exile top X cards of your library, and put a study counter on each of them. Then you may put a card you own in exile with a study counter on it into your hand. So he flips a bunch into exile, and then you get to choose one that's in exile and put in your hand. So it kind of works with the green side. Not super crazy though, because they realize that Simic does not need the help. So this is like a 5. Quandadrix command. Green and a blue and a colorless. Choose 2. Return a creature of Planeswalker to its owner's hand. Counter an artifact or enchantment spell. Lots of enchantments in standard because of Theros. Put 2/1/1 counters on target creature. Or target player shuffles up to 3 target cards from graveyard into their library. Get it just a round escape. Okay. Yeah, this is pretty good. I'd have to say that this is a solid command. It seems like of all the commands, the white-black one was the weakest. This one gets a 6. Next up, we have the blue-green land. That's a 3. Next up, the blue-green commanders for 2 green and a blue merfolk wizards that are 2/2s with ward of 2. If one or more tokens would be created under control, create twice the many of tokens instead. Sort of like a Dublin season effect, kind of. But it works for all tokens, so like treasure tokens, clue tokens, and +1/+1 counters. So. No, I mean 1/1 creature tokens like saplings and stuff. Pretty solid. But compared to other blue-green stuff recently, I'll only give it a 5. And the last thing for blue-green is their Planeswalker, the Enigma Sage. She sent the blue and red walker here. For colors, a blue and a green. Oh no, here comes Okos 2.0. 2 loyalty. Oh. At least it's not a trillion. Each other Planeswalker you control has the loyalty abilities of the Enigma Sage. Well, that's neat. +2 to scry 1, -X to create a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature and put X +1/+1 counters on it. Or -8, search your library for an instant or sorcery card that shares a color with your Planeswalker. Exile that card, and then you may cast it for free. So, it gives us ways to plus ones that really don't have pluses, like Narset, stuff like that that just have minuses. So that's a pretty neat idea. She doesn't seem really powerful. She does have a way to protect herself by making like a 1/1. She's okay. Again, they reined in the power level of Walker since War of the Spark. So I'd give her like a 4. My name's been Draymore with the Wizards Arena. Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment below. I watched a video where they revealed this stuff, and I just thought the campus bit was so funny. It's going to be interesting to see as they show us some more of the learning ability, how that plays out. But you guys all have yourselves a great day. I'll see you in the next video.